You know, I don't really think so. I mean, they seem to have adjusted well. I haven't really talked to them about it. What was the difference from last year to this year, to be honest? But it's just kind of what we've always done. So I think they get adjusted to it pretty quickly. You know, it takes a little while to get in that type of shape. And I think once we get into scrimmages and things, they might feel that a little bit more. Right now they're going forward and they're out a lot of times. So when we get into scrimmages, we get like a 10-play drive going or something, I think they'll be feeling it. But that's part of the real advantage, I think, of that is because now you're going to get the defense tired. And the D-line, you know, we're trying to get them to play the whole field, so they're running around. So you can really get at the end of the drive where the D-line's exhausted. And you're not getting any pass rush. And so that's the real benefit of it. But I haven't noticed them struggling with anything. I think they have bought in and they're doing a great job.
Okay, from your experience, what are some of the pros and cons of the wider splits that is used in this offense on the offensive line?
Yeah, you know, first of all, you don't want to pack everything inside because obviously if you're trying to run up inside, you'd like to have some space in there. And to be honest with you, I want to run off the ball. I don't want to just, you know, kind of ooze off the ball. And so for those big guys to be able to get running and get going, they need to have some space or they're going to be all over each other. So I think those two things, you know, the fact that in order to really get some momentum and especially on double teams and things, we want to be running off the ball. And I think if they get too tight, then we end up on the back of our own guy. And of course, we don't want to do that. So,
Jack, I was going to say, in these, especially in these early practices, new staff, everyone getting to know each other. What are some of the things you're kind of looking for just initially in these first few practices? You know, long before I assume every positions in first team, second team are settled. What are you looking for?
Yeah, well, that's part of it is who is first team, second team. You know, where is the depth chart? I wouldn't read a whole lot into it right now. Obviously, we've got some veteran guys that have played. I think we got a lot of guys that can play. I really do. I think we've got good depth, and so, in my opinion, if we have 6, 7 guys, 8 guys even, then we'll rotate those guys in. You see D-line rotating all the time, so this will give us a chance to be fresh, especially after hopefully a 14-game season that we would have, you know, next year. So, but as far as my guys are concerned, just my biggest thing is they probably haven't passed, you know, protected quite as much as they've run blocked, you know, and so just trying to get those guys a little bit more drop back pass. That's kind of my focus right now. It's just protection, some of the small detail things of how we've done things to get them used to it. To be honest, I think they really have done a great job run blocking a lot of the stuff. You know, people say, well, you're a spread, we're running the exact same things they ran last year. It's just one extra guy in there blocking and one extra fast receiver that we can utilize for RPOs or throwing, you know, posts or whatever we're doing. But it's basically, for my guys, it's the same thing. We got a double team, we're running power, running counter, you know, so I've noticed that they seem to be very well versed in that, and maybe not quite as much as some of the base down, you know, drop back passes.
Jack, how did you come up with what you put out there on Saturday? Because for us, it looked very familiar to what we'd seen last year and the year before. And do you envision moving guys in and out of those different roles?
Yeah, well, obviously, you know, you got guys that played here, and you're going to start out with them, and they are very good players, and so, you know, those guys are probably going to be out there. I mean, honestly, that first and second group, but you got other young guys that might be coming up, you know, that have a chance to break into that lineup. Yeah, but like I said, I'm always looking for. I always want to make sure we have 3 centers, 3 guards, and 3 tackles that could go in and play at any time. So part of the focus is, okay, who's the 3 centers? You know, we're going to take a look at Joe Huber at some center. We're going to look at Tanner at some center who played in the bowl game. You know, just making sure, because as an O-line coach, you never want to be in a situation where if you can't snap the ball and be proficient at that, you can't win the game. You know, so no, that's okay. But that's why that's a critical area for us. And then The other thing is just who else can we put in the game and feel 100% confident that we will not hurt the team. Because if I can get 7 or 8 guys, when I was at Ole Miss, we played at least 7 and some weeks 8. And then that way you're not looking at guys in the fourth quarter just beat the holy heck, and at the end of the year, you have some fresh guys ready to go.
Just wanted to ask, so with, what is something that stood out to you or impressed you since, doing this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mentioned it before, but just the run blocking, the technique, how these guys do it, I think they're way further along than maybe some other places I've been, and I think they've been obviously well coached prior to this, and they have good pad level. They, even on outside zone stuff, a lot of times that's very difficult to get the exact technique of that down. So far, I feel like they've done a good job of that. So I would say that, that's really impressed me. And just the character of the group and the toughness of the group and all those things. I mean, it really, when we go over the academic people, it's just the most boring academic, we're just all good every single week, so that all correlates too, believe me. And the guys just take care of their business. They really are. When the first day I was there, I said, let's make this like an NFL, O-line. Let me coach it like that, which means you guys are going to come ready to play. You're all grown men. That means I don't have to chase you to turn in a paper or something, because if you were a grown man and you got fired, your wife would be very upset with you. So let's just act like the NFL. Let's act like grown men. I think they've embraced that, and it's been really positive.
For you, having Jack Bicknell Jr. at center, what does he bring on and off the field? Not just in that center position, but that offensive line.
Yeah, it's the same thing. He's another guy who's been there before. It's amazing. There's a certain edge to the guys that have been out there and played, a substantial amount. And then you got the young guys kind of figuring that out, I'm just thinking of like a Joe Brunner or Noah Lucci. Those guys they're starting to figure that out. Joe got a little taste of it, but Jake has been there before. He's a veteran guy, so he approaches the game that way. It's similar, but I always say, let's be a pro. Let's approach it that way. Those NFL guys, man, they are so obsessed with it, and that's what I think Jake brings. And I hesitate to say too much because we don't have pads on yet. So even though they do a great job, but I'll be looking forward to getting the pads on and see where we're at after that. But initial indications are we have a veteran group, and Jake's kind of just walked in and been one of the guys and taken over that position.
Jack
Nelson's a fiery, energetic type of guy. First impressions from what you saw and to things that you took away from his first practice on Saturday.
Yeah, similar to what I said, that's one of the guys that's been there for a long time. So he's a veteran guy, and he understands the intensity and the edge to what you have to have. He's definitely a leader. I think the guys look up to him. Like you say, he's brings a little bit of that intensity to it, and kind of the attitude that we want as an offensive line, that we're going to be a physical group, and when you play us, you're going to know you just played a heck of a football team, And so Jack, I feel like, and Tanner and those other guys have been out there, but Jack is certainly a leader to that, and has been just a great example of what we want to be as an offensive lineman at Wisconsin.
You mentioned before when you were on this, you might play 7 or 8 guys in a given game. Is that generally by drive?
Yeah,
every couple drives,
yes.
and to follow up, I know it's early, but what is your impression of the level of depth you have to work with to try to get that here?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with it. I think I look at Trey Whitting, and I really think Joe Huber's going to come on and be one of those guys that can be, get in there. And then, I mentioned Joe Brunner and Nolan Rucci. Both of those guys are going to be. But then, we got JP and we got Barrett Nelson. So and these are names just off the top of my head. I hate naming names because then somebody says, I forgot me, but hopefully. But it's just. I look at these guys. I'm like, wow, that guy's a good player. And again, we don't have pads on yet, but it would be by drive. So hey, And it would be, you know, I was at Ole Miss. Greg Little came off one series a game, and for whatever reason, he always struggled early in the game with but he was a top round draft pick, you know, and so we'd put someone in for him. I had a right tackle that would rotate every series, you know, or maybe every 2 series. I think we did. Hey, you got 2, and then you got 2. So you just try to figure out if they're basically equal, then they're going to play basically equal. But if there's one that's way better, hey, just maybe it's somebody gets a series off a half, and then it's amazing how much that can help them. Number one, you know, be able to see things from a little bit of a different perspective of what's going on out there. But really more than that, it's just being able to be fresh in the fourth quarter.
Jack, you mentioned the numbers at center that you'd like to have. Last year they had Trey Wettig learn center. It was partly because of injuries, but I guess do you want to fit that? If you have to teach a new guy at center, do you want to fit that into that 3 center number that you want to have?
Yeah, really, I want more than 3. I want 3 that can play. I want 6 that are out there snapping. You know,
Okay.
So anybody that can snap and you know, we might have them out there pre-practice. Obviously, you can't get 6 going, but just to be able to have a guy, hey, he can snap. You know, because you could get injuries and then all of a sudden you're in serious trouble. So, yeah, we're just trying to. It'll be interesting now because I told those guys, I said, look, we're going to change this up. So you better get ready because it's a lot different than just snapping over there and going up against a bag or something to where you're 11 on 11, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but you got to be able to throw them in there to see where you're at. So we'll be doing that throughout the spring and then other positions too. You know, we might. Trey Wettig seems to be the Swiss Army knife right now, but he could play left tackle, left guard, you know, both guard position, both tackle positions. So. And he's a really good player. He's been there too. So he's definitely, to me, what I consider him a starter. And then we got other guys really pushing to get to that next level where we can throw them in the game and not even worry about it. Because the other thing with injuries, now you don't have to worry about it. The guy's not going in against Ohio State or something in a huge game, never having played a snap. You know, he's already gotten a whole year's worth of some good experience.
It's not coincidence. Wisconsin's best offense is a dominant offensive line team. It's probably like that everywhere.
Yeah.
But how much is that a talking point for you, knowing the history of the offensive line position here, and the fact the last few years perhaps haven't gone as the streamline? Is it something you're trying to instill in them that can be?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And you know, tradition at a place like this is very important to me, to us. You know, having the guys around Casey Robach and, you know, all the great players that have come through here, I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel like we are part of them, you know, and that we're kind of carrying on the tradition. Heck, I played at Boston College. I take a lot of pride in the O-line at Boston College, or, you know, and if I went back there, I'd want to feel like, hey, man, you're one of us, you know, and that's very, very important to us, and to understand this has been a great tradition of offensive line play, and we're going to continue that. And so, yeah, it's a little bit extra pressure. It's a little bit extra incentive, I think, you know, and a little bit extra pride in who we are as Wisconsin offensive linemen. And so, you know, it's not all about the O-line. I mean, they might be doing good, and there might be other things that happen, but I think you're going to see our guys embrace that, and I think it's going to be a fun year from what I can tell. I mean, I think those guys are going to play hard and you know, kind of show what the tradition is all about for sure.
Cameron told us last week that with the extra spacing and the splits, it changes the angles a little bit, and he thinks, in studying tape and everything, that linebackers are going to flow faster. Is that something that you can teach in terms of watching tape, or figuring out what angle you need to take to get to that linebacker, or is it going to be, they got to feel it on the practice field?
Yeah, no, you definitely teach. I think it's a combination of everything. You watch other people do it on film, and then you walk through it, and you talk about it, and then you obviously get out and go full speed and practice it. You know, our big thing is we want to be vertical. You know, we want to get those linebackers at depth, and so and obviously different plays have different you know, angles that you have to take and things. But yeah, I mean, the big emphasis is that we want to be physical and be vertical and get those linebackers at depth. You know, so many times, let's say it's inside zone or something, and I take one extra step, and now that guy comes downhill, it's kind of ear holing me before I can get going. I just want to peek it and get up there and get him at depth. And they don't like that when they got Riley Malman or something, you know, getting them at depth. They're not used to that. So those are the things that, you know, are very important. And obviously gap scheme is totally different. You know, we want to let those linebackers flow over the top. And so now the angle's a little bit different. But still, the idea of we're getting vertical and we're being physical is what we're trying to get.
Certainly, at one point, he was briefly in the transfer portal, came back. I think he noted, you know, after talking with you and Coach Fickle, that, you know, it swayed him to come back. Do you remember the conversation and kind of what you stressed to Mike at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my very first day, Casey Robbach, as a matter of fact, they said, well, just tell me about the depth chart and things. And he said, Michael Furton, he started, but he's in the transfer portal. And and Coach Longo and I were both in there. We're like, why is he in the transfer portal? He's, you know, I don't know. Just wants a new, fresh start or whatever. And so that was kind of my message to him. I called him up, and I'm like, get your butt over here. Let's talk. You haven't even met us yet. You know what I mean? And so... And he talked about that, just wanted, and I said, you got a fresh start. You got all new, brand new people here. I mean, so why would you leave a place that you love just to get a fresh start? So, yeah, we were able to talk him out of it, which was very, very good for us. And he's going to be a really good player. He's another guy who's been kind of a quiet leader. He's been there around, you know, guys respect that. They understand the guys that have been around, done that, spent a lot of years doing this. And, obviously, I didn't know him before this year, but I know this year he is very all bought in and fired up, and he's been a real positive guy and a real leader on the team also.
Jack.
Was somebody that was like the Swiss Army knife. Cam Bordelini's done that too. Are there other people that you're looking at that you think have the potential to go into this spot?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them do. You know, you just mentioned two of them. Those are probably the main two. Michael Furton, he's kind of settled in there, but he could certainly play left guard. Like, I never want to have somebody say, I'm only a right guard, I'm only a left tackle. You know, I like to have probably Jack Nelson's going to play left tackle. He's sort of settled in there. But, and Trey would be the guy to move. So, but really, even with Jack, I mean, I would want him to feel no problem with going to the right tackle. So, you're always looking for guys that can be that guy. Joe Huber's going to be a guy like that. You know, he can play all five positions. I really believe that. So, you know, but the trick is trying to get them settled in and trying to get them. Plane coming. I felt like there was a plane coming. Every time I'm doing this, oh, you guys were looking, so I was like, what's coming up? Yeah, but you know, so I have no idea what we were talking about. But no, Joe Huber, you know, he's a guy, a perfect example. Could probably play tackle, guard, center. But you want to make sure you get them settled in on one thing, so it's not like, gosh, coach, I just figured this out, now I'm doing this. You know, so that's the trick. You know, you're trying to, and now we've kind of, you know, after a certain part in the spring, we're going to start moving guys around. And, you know, probably Riley would stay at tackle. He's not going to be a guard because he's just so big, you know, and he's good at tackle. But he's got to be ready to play left for sure.
How much is it for you, talking about that in terms of not just being a right tackle, not just being a left guard or whatnot, but just how much is there a balance of trying to reconcile getting reps at one position where you think that player is best, but also having maybe some cross training where you can plug them in where needed?
Yeah, exactly, and that's the trick to it. You know, you don't want to have them. You want to be able to get them settled in at one position, but then also be able to be versatile enough to go to another. And like I said, Jack Nelson's probably playing left tackle, but Trey Wettig, he's got to get ready to play everywhere. And you know, Joe Huber, I think, has got to be a guy that we can move around. So that can be difficult, but also, you know, these guys all want to play in the NFL. There's no such thing as a right and left tackle. Now, we signed Brandon Albert at the Dolphins from the Chiefs for like $65 million or whatever. Yes, he was playing left tackle, but everybody else, you're playing wherever. So, you know, it's important to, you know, and it's obviously different going from tackle to guard as opposed to right tackle to left tackle. You better know right tackle and left tackle. And you know, because but now you start talking tackle to guard, that's where it's really, you got to make sure guys are settled in at one spot and then move them. And then, but I mean, heck, it's happened all over the country, and you got to have guys, because really it's the next best guy who's going in, so you got to have that versatility.
Jack, Luke Fickell and Brady Collins have both stressed competition. Is that something you're doing as well? Like, you can't get too comfortable in your spot on the depth chart, wherever it might be?
Absolutely, and that's college football, big time. Really, that's literally. I mean, that's everything. You know, these days, I mean, you're going to play the best, and you know, I talk to the guys that are in the second group. Hey, compete and go show us that you're better. And so that obviously now the guys in the first group know I'm not going to give you that position, and that's what makes every person better. You know, because they're not getting complacent. They're not saying, well, I kind of have it made. I don't think anybody can really say that in our group, because we got some really good players, and that's what really makes you good, to be honest. I've been places where those guys, I would say that, and the line would be like, yeah, I don't think so. You know, this guy's not playing over me. They absolutely cannot say that here, because they absolutely have some guys behind them that can play. So I think that's what really, truly makes you a great position group and a great team, if you really, truly have that. Because let's face it, we're all better if we're being pushed, and we're better if we're, you know, we understand that, hey, I better do this or else I'm going to be in trouble. So I think that's a real positive for our group for sure.